Over the last while, I've been taking a look back at the previous 3D Mario games, which I believe to be some of the greatest designed platformers ever made, and they really helped shape the game industry and how we see it today, minus maybe Super Mario Sunshine, but that game still has a special place in my dark, loveless heart. First we talked Mario 64, then Sunshine, and if we're going chronologically, we have Mario 64 DS. I don't want to play that shit! F it, we're talking about Mario Galaxy first. Super Mario Galaxy was one of the first games I ever played, and not only that, one of the first games that my little baby brain could kind of comprehend. I was a little dumb when I was a kid. I got handed Borderlands or the PlayStation 3, and I got a little confused. My Nintendo Wii was one of the most cherished items I owned as a kid, which is saying a lot considering that I owned a copy of Diary of a Wimpy Kid. As a kid, I had played Mario Galaxy for dozens, if not hundreds of hours, exploring every nook and cranny I could, wanting to see everything this game had to offer. With that, I never actually beat the game. I got stuck collecting the last stars to get to the final boss. I was a weird kid. Now, of course, since then I've gone and beat this game a few times, but over the last 5 years or so, I haven't really touched this game as much as I did. So, let's pop the game in. When the Wii launched, there was no Mario game releasing for the console, ending the pattern of Nintendo releasing a console with a Mario game close by. For example, the NES, it came with Mario 1, the N64 had Mario 64 as a release title, but the Wii had no Mario game. The Wii had an impressive launch lineup, no doubt, releasing with games like Wii Sports, Twilight Princess, Barnyard, only the essentials. But again, no Mario game at or even close to launch, and that's because they were cooking up something crazy. The original concept for this game started out with a GameCube tech demo called Mario 128, this freaky-ass drug trip with 128 different Marios. There was an idea here to make a game where you could defy the laws of gravity and walk 360 degrees around a sphere, like a small planet or something. The title makes sense! And while the whole planet idea was being used for Super Mario Galaxy, the tech demo's main showcase of showcasing dozens of different characters on screen at once was eventually used for Pikmin on the GameCube, not Mario. Super Mario Galaxy released in November of 2007, around a year after the Wii launched, and quickly became one of the best-selling and best-reviewed games on the Wii. Not that much of an achievement looking back though, because besides Nintendo's first-party games, the Wii was filled with a bunch of complete dog shit. It launched with f***ing Barnyard. I do like that movie, actually. This game starts out with Mario heading to the Mushroom Kingdom to see the Star Festival, a festival that happens once every 100 years where a comet passes through the skies of the Mushroom Kingdom. But as Mario shows up, Bowser starts shooting fire and shit and then kidnaps Princess Peach where he plans to create his own galaxy and rule everything and marry Peach, flinging Mario into space where he has to save Peach. Pretty average Mario plot. Mario ends up landing on a small planet where he meets a star-like creature called a Luma, which are the species that follow this space god woman named Rosalina. When you meet Rosalina, she takes you to the Comet Observatory where you must collect grand stars to restore energy to the observatory and defeat Bowser, saving the universe and saving Peach. I wonder which one's more important to Mario. F***ing horn dog. The Comet Observatory works as this game's hub world like Peach's Castle in Mario 64 or Isle Delfino from Mario Sunshine. Now the Comet Observatory gets a lot of praise, which I do get, but I would be lying if I said I was a huge fan of this place. Peach's Castle and Isle Delfino feel like they're somewhat tangible places that could exist in the Mario universe. The Comet Observatory feels more of just a place to get to levels in the game, and that's about it. Which is fine enough, but it makes me wonder why they didn't go for something even more simple, because I don't think there's enough NPCs or secrets hidden around here for it to really be worth exploring. It's not to say that there's nothing to do here, it's just that previously there was a lot more to do and see. All you really have here is Luigi. What this place does a great job at is thematically showing the empty and almost hopeless feel Mario Galaxy has. It starts out pretty somber with the Lumas you speak to worried for their lives, and the area is completely grayed out like the color was sucked out of them with a black hole or something. But as you play through the game, more NPCs begin to show up and everything starts to feel a little more hopeful. It's a really fun way of storytelling, even if exploring the Comet Observatory can feel a little boring, especially early on with how empty it is. You can enter these little hubs where you have access to a few different galaxies to collect stars in, and once you have enough, you have a boss fight against Bowser Jr., Bowser, or one of his minions or something. These essentially work as the paintings in Mario 64 or the paint light goop in Sunshine, just with a bigger spectacle, and I actually feel like, it feels like you're looking at a map, seeing where you want to go or something. Where this game differs from the two previous 3D Mario games is by pretty much changing the gameplay loop entirely. While in a game like Mario 64, it's pretty much an open sandbox exploratory game where you're able to pretty much do whatever you want and complete any objective in any order you want. It's more or less the same in Super Mario Sunshine. And many of the objectives and levels carry over in multiple ways, like the 8 red coins, 100 coins, and some other stuff. A lot of coins. Mario Galaxy gets rid of the more open sandbox style of gameplay and instead gives each level only 3 different stars, not having the same more exploratory aspects seen previously. And while I like vastly exploring levels and discovering secrets, I believe especially for a Mario game, having more linear based structures for a level works a lot better. And also, I'll say it, I'll gash my throat in 3 times before I replay every objective in Super Mario Sunshine. But this gameplay structure also allows the game to have a lot more content, because while you're guided to the stars, everything is different with having no repeating gameplay. And it does a really good job at being a game where you can just do one more mission then go to bed, because they're all really bite-sized and fun. Since each level only includes 3 stars and some extra ones compared to the 8 seen previously, this game also includes significantly more areas to explore than pretty much any other game previously, having a level structure a lot more similar to the new Super Mario Bros. Series and the previous 3D Mario games. For games like Mario 64 and Sunshine, one of my biggest complaints was the controls. For Mario 64, I'll just go ahead and say it, I think the controls ruin the game a lot of the time. With Sunshine, while being an improvement, the game still has a lot of jank, which brings the game down a lot. But Mario Galaxy actually has a lot less moves to pull off. But I'm happy to say that Mario Galaxy pretty much perfects Mario's controls in almost all aspects. It just feels so much more smooth than it did before, and it never feels like I have to fight with my controller to progress in the game. You play the game using a Wii nunchuck connected to the bottom of the Wiimote, allowing for analog controls. And while I've never been the biggest fan of how it feels to play a 3D platformer with the Wiimote and Wii nunchuck setup, I would honestly prefer a normal controller. It still feels great, especially for the level design in this game. You are given a new move for Mario to pull off in this game. It's called the spin. Is there an actual name for this? Hang on. Okay, it's called the Star Spin, which replaces moves like the kick in Mario 64. You pull this move off by jerking the Wii remote. I could have said anything else to describe that, but I'm not changing it. It's written in stone. I love this move. Quickly jerking the Wii remote to kill enemies and break crystals to fly through space is such a fun and rewarding move to pull off. In this game's Switch remaster, they give you the option to simply press the Y button on the controller, which I will say is significantly easier and more convenient to pull off, but the spectacle of flinging yourself on a launch star to fly through space when not giving the Wii remote a big shake is kinda lame. Only issue, if people ever walk in on you playing this game and aren't in the know, it can lead to some very awkward conversations. Okay, so what do you think? I would say that this game is taking a step back from expanding Mario's moveset, getting rid of things like the punch and the dive, instead keeping what works and designing the game from there, which works really well considering how linear this game is compared to what came before. Another new move thing introduced here is using the pointer to collect these star bits, which are kind of like this game's coins, except this game also has coins, so I don't know. You can aim the pointer or the Wii remote at them and collect them without even having to move Mario. It's a very satisfying thing to do, especially when you have a bunch to collect while flying through space. It just gives you something extra to do in a part where you really aren't doing anything. You can use these star bits to collect extra lives, but more importantly, every once in a while a hungry Luma will appear in the Comet Observatory, where it'll ask for a bunch of star bits, and once given it'll transform into a mini galaxy and you can collect a star. It's a good way to encourage you to collect more star bits. The main gameplay gimmick and my favorite part of this game is the planet orbit feature, not ever seen before in really any game. Instead of having large open areas like in previous Mario games, Mario Galaxy instead has multiple different tiny planets you can explore in many levels, where you can run all around the tiny planets and get caught in other planets' orbits. It's pretty fun. This is used in many creative ways, like in the level Gusty Garden Galaxy, where you need to lead a Cataquack through a maze so you can bounce on into the orbit of the next area. That's so cool! And also, Cataquacks are back? Hell yeah! And besides it being used in good ways, it's just fun to be able to go into other platforms because of the anti-gravity, and best yet, it doesn't feel janky at all. It feels great. Like, imagine if Mario Sunshine tried to do something like this. Yeah, no thanks, I would prefer death. But Mario Galaxy, it just feels so good. It's like sex, but for virgins. A lot of games with such big ideas like this end up being jank fests at the end of the day. I mean, take a look at Sonic 06. I'm one of the only people in the world that actually loves that game, but yeah, this game is janky. Mario Galaxy just feels so polished, which is good because during development there was a lot of fear that the gameplay would be difficult to wrap your head around with all the gravity changing mechanics, as there's such a big change from the previous 3D Mario games. When you do things like long jump out of the orbit of a planet and land in the orbit of another planet, it feels like you're almost performing an exploit or something you weren't supposed to do, which goes to show that even though this mechanic was doubted originally, with enough perseverance and probably employee crunch time, they were able to perfectly implement their ideas. The first level in this game is Good Egg Galaxy, great name by the way, excellently puts you into the game after the pretty slow and melancholy start of the game. It plays this triumphant orchestral rock, but also keeps the emptiness and bleak feeling music given at the start. But this level perfectly sets this game up using every relevant mechanic like gravity switching, planet traversal, launch stars, etc. This level is great. But while this all seems fun and lively, you look out into space and remember, oh yeah, I'm literally alone in the middle of space. Except for this Goomba. Nearly every level in this game is great. My favorite galaxies such as Space Junk Galaxy or Honey Hive Kingdom all pretty much feel like real places that could actually exist somewhere out in the universe. Mario's universe, not ours. Well, I don't know. Like Space Junk Galaxy, as the name says, is just a bunch of junk in space, even having a mission where you need to blow up garbage. Good thing this isn't a problem in real life. Oh yeah. Like, I wonder how some galaxies exist, like this big mouth galaxy with this big stonefish planet with some water. Still a fun idea. There doesn't need to be a rhyme or reason why these places exist. It's space, anything can happen, but I love the world building this game has. Although some levels feel a lot more open than others, like Honey Hive Galaxy, while being one of my favorites, really feels weird coming after Good Egg Galaxy because of how linear that one was and how open this one is. This could be a level in Mario 64. There's also this part in Honey Hive Galaxy where you need to caress a big bee to get a star, which is awesome. Keep it up, I love prostitution. This game also takes a lot of elements only previously seen in 2D Mario games up to that point, specifically power-ups. While technically Mario 64 had power-ups like the wing cap or the metal cap, and Sunshine had the nozzle power-ups, which are all kind of one-trick ponies being only used in some spots, they really just weren't as useful as they were in the 2D Mario games. This game takes iconic power-ups like the Firefly or the Invincibility Star and brings them into 3D for the first time and even introduces a few new ones, like the bee power-up that turns Mario into a bee, again, bee caressing level, prostitution. You also have the Ice Flower, which was later brought into 2D Mario, although working a lot differently, where Mario freezes the water and lava under him and is able to shoot ice balls from his hands. It opens up a lot of fun platforming segments. Or the Boo Mushroom, which turns Mario into a boo where he can go through some surfaces, float, and take damage from light. But my favorite power-up is the Red Star, which gives Mario the ability to fly in the sky for a limited amount of time. This is barely used in the game, but it's fun to just fly around as Mario in a big open 3D space. It's like the Tanuki suit or the Cape power-up from the older games, but in 3D, and kinda clunky. But it's fun. The power-ups aren't really used that much in the game, especially earlier on, but they're a really fun refresher and I wouldn't say they go out of their way to slow you down or anything, besides the Boo Mushroom, but that's kind of the point. In games like Mario 64 and Sunshine, the bosses weren't really anything to write home about, especially in Mario Sunshine when you had to fight the exact same boss 9 times throughout the game, Jesus Christ. But this game has these huge boss fights, like say this Egg Dinosaur from Good Egg Galaxy where you need to spank him as he gets increasingly more and more pissed off. Or King Caliente where he shoots fireballs and projectiles at you, so you need to hit the projectiles at the right time to get a chain hit on him. It's so satisfying to pull off since you must use the motion controls in the Wii Remote. It just feels so good. The only boss I really dislike in this game is this bug fight from Honey Hive Galaxy where he flips to his side, he rains bombs and stuff. It's kinda cool, but I don't think you really have enough control over Bee-Suit Mario in this game to accurately hit the creature. Also, Mario just looks like a fucking dumbass in this. Take that shit off. Even the Bowser fights in this game are great and make him feel genuinely threatening, especially in parts where he's shooting fireballs at you while the ground crumbles under you. Hell no, I'm never going to Chicago again. And then you must chase him around this small planet and keep spanking him. They're just really fun. Why do I keep saying spanking? I think one of the best and most underlooked aspects of this game is Rosalina's storybook, which you unlock more chapters of as you get further into the game. At the start of the game, you just view Rosalina as a space god woman who takes care of the Lumas, but the storybook really fleshes out her character. It tells the story of how she met the Lumas and her grieving over the loss of her mother, and why that gave her such a motherly instinct in taking care of the Lumas and protecting the universe. It's actually a really sweet and sort of sad story you'd never expect in a Mario game. Like, you're this fat Italian dude running around this area named after a pleasing egg, and there's this woman at the same time grieving over the loss of her mother. It's very tonally different, but also kind of fits at the same time. I talked about this a little earlier, but this game has such an empty and melancholic feeling to it, as you are essentially stranded in the middle of space clamoring to the hope of saving the universe. Because the music in this game at many points is this catchy orchestral, but it can also fade into this quiet, slow music which makes you realize, oh yeah, I'm in the middle of space. Speaking of the music in this game, I would say that this has one of the greatest and most atmospheric soundtracks in any game ever. It's great at replicating the bombastic feel of games like Mario 64 and World, but there are also many quiet parts that just make you feel. I'm not gonna pretend to be an Anthony Fantano, the internet's favorite music nerd, who gave one of my favorite albums a fucking light 6, and act like I know all the intricacies of this game's soundtrack. But what I will say is that this game's orchestral and whimsical feel makes it one of the best video game soundtracks out there. Everything about this game just connects and makes me love it. It doesn't have any parts that really bring the game down for me like Mario 64 and Sunshine, it's just all around a great game. This game has one of the most creative concepts, level design, music, stories, atmospheres of any game ever, and I've played Despicable Me on the DS. And while I think later on in the game with galaxies like Sand Spiral Galaxy, the game can feel a little bit drained of all its concepts, it's not anywhere close to my gripes I had with previous games. In fact, I would go as far as to say that I think this is the perfect 3D Mario game. This is actually, kind of, the only 3D Mario game to actually have a traditional sequel, because the developers simply had so much more ideas they didn't have time to implement in this game, so they made Mario Galaxy 2, a game I haven't actually fully beaten ever, so I'm excited to get to that soon. This game just has such a feeling that I don't think any other games have been able to replicate even close. It emits a feeling of whimsy, wonder, but also emptiness and sorrow, and many more things I can't really begin to explain. Turns out that feeling was cancer. I surrounded myself with too many radio waves.